I'm honored to be here today to speak amidst of all these wonderful women sharing their stories with us. And I am currently in Nairobi, Kenya. And yes, big up to my Kenyan sisters for taking up this so seriously. And I'm going to share my story in 3 bits. And I'll start with my childhood. I was born in a remote village in Kenya to a very young girl who had just completed high school out of wedlock. And as many have shared in Africa, that is kind of not something to be so proud of. She had to continue with her studies, so I was left under the care of my grandmother at a very tender age of about 3 months. So I grew up in my grandfather's home with my aunts and my uncles while my mother was in college, studying to be a teacher. One thing that people don't know is that my surname Kahoro is my grandfather's name. And how I adopted this name to be my surname is when I was an adolescent and I did not want to carry my maiden name with me. In Kenya, if I'm to have two female names, I know the kinds of Wanjiko can understand that, then definitely that labels me as a fatherless child. So as I was progressing to high school, I really didn't want to take this label with me. So I was like, I'm going to take my grandfather's surname with me. And this far, I still retain it because he's one man who has been in my life. May his soul rest in peace. So if I take you back to my childhood, I grew up without my mother, only to rejoin her at the age of around 7 years when she settled for her teaching job. And I had a pretty difficult teenage. That is what I can remember mostly because I remember just trying to know things by myself. My mom was an authoritarian, and as you can imagine, there was no dialogue between me and my mom. She was the authority. There was no understanding each other. If she says no to something, that is it. I remember pretty well, I didn't have someone to tell me about even menstruation, sexuality. So those are things I had to figure out on my own, which was a very difficult thing. The other highlight I'm going to share here is in 2000, while I was in Form 1, a very close person to me, who is my uncle, passed away. He committed suicide in my grandfather's compound, only to discover that my uncle has been battling depression for quite some time. And when it just came, since it's a taboo in my community, people just dismissed him as a mad person. And the next thing, he was just condemned to a mental facility in Kenya. We call them Madare. And if you hear of Madare in Kenya, just know that is a mad person's facility. So he was condemned to such, and because there was no proper diagnosis, the day he was released, he just came home, and that morning, the following morning, he committed suicide. I only came to understand that much later when I joined college. The other highlight I'm going to give is something that happened in July this year to me at the height of COVID-19. I work in the health facilities in Kenya. I support people living with HIV for psychosocial support and all that. So in July, I'm a healthcare worker. So COVID hit us so hard because we could not work from home. We had to be in the front line all through. And in July, I contracted COVID-19. That made me to go to isolation for around 10 days. And it was a moment of reflection. I went through all these feelings of anxiety, feelings of panic, feelings of fear, and all that. Fear for probably that I have infected other people with the virus. And it was a tough moment for me. And it was a tough moment because I was tried mentally. Fortunately, I was asymptomatic most of the time, just some mild symptoms. I made it through, and I thank God for that. So that brings me to my interest in mental wellness. From those experiences that I have shared, I'm just moved to support people and to advocate for mental healthness. That's why I say, as a young mother, I have 3 kids. I got my first at 21 years. That's pretty a young age here in Africa. I remember I was still in university when I got my firstborn. So that is the reason I stand for young women of my age who are juggling between raising children, marriages, going back to school, advancing their career. As we all know, uh, it's not a very easy stage or phase of our life. So that's why I have the purpose to support such women and to support everyone else, to be a support system to everyone that comes my way who is going through stressful situations. I dedicate myself to be there for them, to work with them through that situation so that they can cope positively. And I would want to share about a support system. I've had so many of you talk about it. Gertrude shared that when she went back home to bury the dad, she had a strong support system in Ruth and another friend. And a lot of people have talked about that social support system. And I will overemphasize about the importance of having family and people around you who can really walk you through tough situations in your life, because it's very important to have such. I'll also encourage all of us not to be afraid to take social risk. It's very important to trust people around you. You just have to establish a support system that you believe in, a support system that believes in you, and you take care of those relationships because they are going to take you a long way when you are in a needful situation. I have also co-founded La Femme Gagnio. It's a women-led group, virtual group on Facebook. We started it during the COVID-19 when we realized we could not meet physically. It was started by 4 young women like me, and it's a safe space whereby we bring women together to share about their stories without fear of being judged. And we are able to just share and support each other. So I will end by sharing a quote that I have here about social support system. Notice the people who are happy for your happiness and sad for your sadness. They are the ones who deserve a special place in your life. Thank you so much for listening to me.